Hi, thank you for joining us for the Dev Call today, August 5th, 2024. The last week we've been really busy testing our testnet so that we can, whenever we open it to the public, it's going to be a lot smoother for you guys to join. Last week, Caleb and Spuddy got the process down for the validator that we've been testing. I actually got to test it personally and everything worked really smoothly. So I was able to stand up a validator and everything ran for a period of time. So the docs, I think they're approved. They should be working super smoothly by the time you guys get to join the network. We also found out that we have to be running in a node with sync state on so that you guys can join the network very much easier than syncing through the entire history of the network when you guys join, because you guys are going to be joining about a week after we're running the chain. That's when we're going to be opening it up for the public. And yeah, also last week through our testing, we realized that we needed to optimize our storage. So we're going to be cutting the logs and also cutting some of the chain, so pruning it much faster than we anticipated, so that it also makes it easier for you guys to join the network. And today and this week, we're going to continue to test the network. We're relaunching our testnet so that it's brand new and clean next week when you guys start joining, or once we test it this week and we decide that it's ready for you guys to join, I will open it a week after. So with that said, we're also working on other things, working on the chain, the bridge, the relayer, and continuing testing, also the front end, and just general testing of the actual testnet. So, all right, all of those things are in motion. Tim, where are you with the relayer and our example user?
Yeah, so we've had a relayer running since like midway last week. And actually we had other versions of it days before that. So it's just been running this whole time without going down. So, I mean, seems to be pretty smooth. Like, it has to adjust to validator set updates, so it does that when it has to, and then it keeps updating the data in the user contract every 10 minutes. So yeah, it's pretty stable as is. So I think we have a good base to then build more complex, more realistic users on top of that. And yeah, one example of that might be a relayer for token bridge withdrawals to automate moving from layer to EVM, because we use the data bridge for that. Yeah, so and then also, so on another thing, I'm working on an improvement to the token bridge, so that token bridge deposits get automatically minted on the layer side. We found that would be a needed improvement for the design. So yeah, I found a way to do that without it being too complicated. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on.
Thank you. Can't wait to hear about the non-complicated way that you found. Yeah. All right, Spuddy, how are our nodes doing and our processes in that area?
Nodes are great. At the end of last week, I started up an archive node and a node that's pruning everything, which would be like a node that a wallet, like if you had a local wallet, it would be like a wallet node. It's pruning everything. It's not keeping any chain history, or not supposed to be. So the archive node, and on Friday, it hadn't been live long enough for us to be able to see any difference between the default pruning and the archive node, right? So the archive today is at 18 gigabytes. I can't remember what you said, Caleb, what it was at.
26.
That's interesting. Well, no, that's his whole machine drive.
Oh, the whole machine.
Yeah. It was 17.
Right.
Okay, so the archive is 18, like solidly 18 too. And then the late node.
Sorry, there's a difference between the archive node and the node that is pruning of 1 gig.
The default pruning.
Okay, default.
Yep. And then the one that's pruning everything is at 7.5. So everything after 7.5 is considered not. I mean, 7.5 is still significant. So I don't know what's going on exactly, but that's where they're at.
And can you explain a little bit of what's the difference between default and the archive? What because everything I imagine, is that like 1 day, or is that an hour, or is that every block? And then the default, what is the default?
It doesn't prune all of the data, all of the different databases. I don't know which databases it's pruning by default,
Right.
but yeah. When we started up the network, we started up with default. But yeah, so I guess at the moment I started up the archive node, it started saving everything, and then the one that's running default has begun to prune something. Either that or it's rounding. Like they could just be like, I don't know. Are the databases always exactly the same size on every machine? I don't know if that's true.
We'll find out. We are running several of them, so we can probably track them over time. But okay, so it's about a 10 gig difference if we do pruning everything versus default. That's a pretty good gain, I think.
Mhm. I mean, the goal for everything, for pruning everything, would be so that you could run it on a cloud compute machine and you don't have to have a terabyte of storage, right? That's, I think that's what the goal is there, which is what some people who were just running a validator because they have a little bit of TRB and they figure, why not run a validator? That's probably how they're going to do it.
It makes it easier for people to join the network. Ryan, how is the front end coming along? I know you're working on some monitors as well. The front end is running, by the way. So
Yeah, the Block Explorer is running, and spent last week just getting up the allowed amounts monitors, which seem to be still kicking along. So I'm just gonna just move down the list of the monitor wish list. And what was cool was last week we kind of came up with it unearthed a new getter that we could use that might be useful for us. So I'm hoping to have more of those discoveries with the other monitors that we put up.
okay. And I know Tim already added that getter. I pushed it.
Oh, we did?
Probably test doing an upgrade to the chain with that. So you might not get it today, but you
Okay.
will get it sometime during this week when we test that process. So running the chain just us has allowed us to do some testing of our processes and documentation. And that's been really important because it'll make your life easier, I promise. Or that's the goal of it. Caleb, how are you doing?
I'm good. Working on getting a Prometheus server set up so that we can have more in-depth metrics. And then after that, going through our metrics wish list and using that to go through the code and actually use the telemetry library and add things where we want them to be so that we can try to get all the data that we could possibly want.
Thank you. I looking at all the data, I'm sure it's going to eventually lead to optimizations. So I'm really looking forward to seeing those reports. Dan, you've been super busy with testing, and I'm so grateful because I know it's hard work and it's very time consuming. But you're done 100% with the functional test for all of the modules, and now you're just focusing on vote extensions, right?
Yeah, right now I'm working on the proposal handlers and pre-blocker.
Thank you. And yeah, for board extensions, I think that's gonna take some real life testing, I guess, on the testnet, just so that we can finalize the parameters around it. So we'll yeah, looking forward to how that works in real life with multiple nodes. But yeah. And Mike, how are you doing? And
Good. I'm until I'm sort of tagged back in. I've been switching gears to website changes coming for Layer and our conversations we're having with Embark. So I want to loop you into that process soon, especially preparing for our meeting later this week.
yes, I gave the dev access. They confirmed or denied that he actually got in, but I hope he did. Anyway.
You know, and I was thinking, since there's going to be, current Tellor is immutable, and we're going to have users that are going to continue to use it, and even people might still want to use it forever, and they could. We might want to keep, a legacy version of the website that we just link to. That will just utilize, we could even just keep the current website and now just move it into a link to another URL, and just have, users that want to access old Tellor. Here's a website, some information about it. Here are the old docs, instead of just like taking those down. So,
Yeah. I mean, all of those, the entire system is going to continue to work even when Layer is up and completely transitioned. So we can think, maybe we can brainstorm with them what's the best way of doing it.
Yeah.
It could be I don't know if a link by itself will be too hidden, but either way,
just don't want to have, you just don't want confusion. And one thing I've learned is that if there's any room for confusion, people will be confused in mass. So
definitely. And so this is basically, I think, our third iteration of the testnet. And I think, Mike, next week is the week. So
okay,
prepared.
sounds good.
Yeah. Also, I've been going through all of the ADRs, and Mike, I know last week we did a session to go through some of them. I actually worked to attempt to depict all of them, and eventually we'll make them look pretty, give them to an actual graphics designer. But I actually have the majority of them already set up so that I can easily explain them. And next week, what I want to do, whether or not we open the testnet to the public, we'll do an overview of how actually Tellor Layer works during this call instead of just the dev call. So
amazing.
Yeah. I will show you I can show some of the pictures, but Mike is gonna, I'm sure, make all of these look way prettier eventually. But I did try. Here, I'm gonna give you guys a little preview, and you guys will understand why I need a graphics designer. But this is basically, ADR 1, where we talk about what we're cutting the logs or optimizing, creating or optimizing storage so that more people can run it easier. So, I try to cut the logs, cut the chain, talk about the attestations and why that's important for us to keep small. But like this, I have a bunch of other, and so we'll go through all of these, Mike, and then maybe provide them to Ben or somebody so that they can make all of this prettier and easier to understand. They're still very pretty, but this will work for the team, and I think they will work for next week.
Yeah, these will be fine for us. But no, that's great. I love visual aids. So
Me too. We're missing our visual aids person here, Nick. I was like, I need my drawings. But anyway, he'll be back soon. All right. Well, thank you guys. I'll see you guys, some of you guys, at 1 p.m. And then Tim, I actually do need you to go through one ADR, so stay behind. And see everybody else next week.